Gracie Gordon is taking her first 12 months of life well and truly in her stride.
What's in the oven?
She's like every other little toddler, except for one thing. Gracie's dad died before she was conceived.
It's not the norm. It's not how things should be. But fortunately for me, with the advances that are around, it was possible.
Gracie is a miracle of modern science.
Is that?
But she's also the child Michelle Gordon was determined to create, even though her husband, Simon, had died.
It is, isn't it? Continuing on to have a family wasn't about replacing Simon. It was, I suppose, carrying on about the life that we had planned together. I wanted it. I wanted it for me, and I wanted it for us.
Gracie is one of a number of children fathered by men who had already passed away. Science has now made it possible for viable sperm to be retrieved up to 36 hours after death, enabling grieving widows to create the families they'd always wanted. But it's an issue that challenges both lawmakers and the medical profession.
It's a very unusual situation to get a phone call saying, can you go and retrieve sperm from a man who's passed away?
Brisbane fertility specialist Dr. Ben Kroon says fathering after death poses significant ethical dilemmas, especially when men have not recorded their wishes.
If they've never documented that they want to father a child after their death, it's not clear. Just because someone is living with another person, has a relationship with them, is in fact trying for a child, it doesn't mean that they would be interested in actually having a baby after they've died.
Dr. Kroon first encountered the issue of post-death parenting when Amy Vandenbrink sought a court order to retrieve sperm from her fiancé Ben, who died suddenly.
I remember vividly walking up and down the corridors inside the morgue, waiting for this court order and thinking, what's the court order going to say? Is it really true that I'm allowed to take this sperm? Is it really legal?
There's not a day that I don't think about, is it selfish for me to do this? Is it inappropriate for me to want this? How is it that I'm going to go about and bring a child into this life knowing that they're not going to have their biological, physical presence of their father?
It's been 4 years since Amy Vandenbrink made that decision.
These are your treasured belongings, are they?
They are.
She still grieves for her fiancé, who died after suffering a bout of pneumonia. But her dreams of a family with Ben didn't die with him.
In the midst of this shock, the idea was put to you that you should try and retrieve some of Ben's sperm.
I didn't have to think about it. Out of everything that was going on that day, someone said to me, here's a glimmer of hope. You could still have your family, there's still a part of Ben alive. There's a possibility.
I imagine a lot of us would say, I can't think about this right now.
Yeah, definitely. Which is why it had to be broken down in, do you ever want to have Ben's child or not? That's it, had to be broken down in completely emotionless and black and white. Because if you don't jump at that opportunity no longer exists. It's not something you can go, I wish I had.
It was a race against time. Amid the shock of unexpectedly losing the love of her life, Amy had just 36 hours to retrieve Ben's sperm for it to remain viable. But first, there was a legal hurdle. In an unprecedented case in Queensland, Amy had to convince a Supreme Court judge that she was entitled to Ben's sperm, which was complicated by the fact that he had never put his wishes in writing or even discussed the possibility with Amy.
You never discussed whether or not you could have his sperm to have a child?
Not at all.
If he should pass away?
Not at all. I was 25 when I was left by Ben, so we were planning our wedding and planning our honeymoon, and we had our children's names and we knew everything that we wanted to do, but not to that extent, no.
But still, no doubt that children is what he wanted.
100%, what both of us wanted.
But it was something Michelle Gordon and her late husband Simon had discussed and prepared for. Simon battled Hodgkin's lymphoma, and a few months before he died, Michelle fell pregnant with their first child, Charlie.
It was something that weighed heavy on both of us about the choice to have a child, knowing that inevitably I was going to be a single parent at some stage.
Simon had hoped to live long enough to see his son, but it wasn't to be. Charlie was born prematurely, 12 hours after Simon died, and then tragically, Charlie died 3 days later.
How difficult was that?
Wasn't my best week. It wasn't quite how it went to plan, but I'm so lucky. It was a good thing that Simon passed first, because he went knowing that he was a father, I was having our child, and that was one of the things that was really important to him.
But what Simon would not have known is that he would father a second child. 18 months after he died, his daughter Gracie was born.
When you come home from the hospital and you're sitting there and you're thinking, there's pictures of Simon around, and it was, just a comfort, I think, just being at home. It's our home, it's where our memories are. And finally, we were in our home with a child that we both very much wanted.
I think little Gracie was the rainbow in the storm, if anything.
Simon's older brother Adrian has moved to Gracie's hometown of Mildura to be close to his little niece.
How do you see your role in her life?
Just be there. Whether I'm the person that goes to the school concerts when she's older, or just be there for her, and shall.
Oh. Simon had an idea in his head about the people who would be around for Gracie that were important to him, and Adrian is one of them.
Next weekend, next Saturday.
In Brisbane, Amy also has the support of her family. Parents Lynette and Brian are happy for their daughter to fall pregnant to her deceased fiancé, although the idea took a little getting used to.
I had my trepidations about it. It was a whole new concept that I'd never really looked at before.
So what worried you?
Oh, just the fact that looking a little bit further into the future, that it may be holding Amy back from moving forward and getting on with things.
I mean, Lynn, are you convinced it is what Ben would have wanted?
I am fully convinced. Ben and Amy would go shopping and buy baby clothes together. And this was before even, anything had happened. I knew he wanted to have a family.
5 years ago, I was planning our wedding, and this is completely out of the ordinary.
Amy's hopes of a family are stored here in this Brisbane fertility clinic.
I guess he's still alive in your mind when you think of his sperm being in here.
Most certainly. That's my next chance. That's, it's his legacy, was our plans, and he's going to be alive.
But there are still a few hurdles to go. 4 years on, and Amy needs a second court order before she can actually use Ben's sperm. And only then will she and Dr. Kroon know whether it was extracted in time.
One of the difficulties, especially in Amy and Ben's case, is that the sperm was retrieved quite some time after he passed on, and it's a question that will always be in both of our minds until the day comes that Amy gets to use it.
This is about having Ben's child.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a child, it's Ben's child.
Yes, this is about having Ben's child, because that was my intention from the start. Just because circumstances occurred and Ben had passed away, my fairy tale still lives on. My Prince Charming is no longer here, but it doesn't mean that I can't have the children and the family that I want. Science is there, and it was a chance that this could occur.
What will you say to your child if you are successful?
That they are the luckiest child in the world, because their mum fought for them 100 times over. And their dad was the best man. That their father would have done exactly what I would have done in this position.
In a world where science continually outstrides community conscience, the complexities of fathering children from beyond the grave will continue to be argued. But for Michelle Gordon, there is no debate.
It's got good energy.
When you look at Gracie, do you see Simon?
Too much. Her particular mannerisms sometimes are very much her father. A particular eye roll, or the way she lifts her brow, and her particular mannerisms are very much like Simon.
Is that a good thing?
It's a comforting thing. It really is a comforting thing. She's not just mine, she's ours.
Hello, I'm Liz Hayes. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9 Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.